So today we're talking about friendships.
Ooh, yeah. Hot topic.
Steamy.
Yeah, especially if you like people to show up to your birthday dinners.
Okay, but what's your take on like friendships?
I think obviously friendship is a wonderful thing. In the gay world, it's quite hard sometimes, and I think the gay scene isn't always as welcoming as it thinks it is or pretends to be.
Yeah.
You know, the gay scene likes to think of itself as this like hugely inclusive place where you're going to find your community and find your, you know, your kid. I hate when people say my tribe because I find that really naff.
Yeah, it's very grinder.
Yeah.
But like your non-blood family type thing, yeah.
And I think that can be true to an extent. And I don't want to say, because I know there are a bit of people that are probably just like hard people to get along with, and the reason they haven't made friends is because they ain't nice people. But I also think that sometimes these people that like these queer spaces that sometimes pride themselves on inclusivity can become really cliquey, and then they actually end up
Cliquey?
Yeah.
Is that how you say it?
clique.
I say cliquey.
No, clique, because it's a French word. But anyway, they can become a bit cliquey, and then maybe without realising, they actually become as exclusionary as the places they felt like excluded them.
Well, the thing is, look, we all know a bitchy bar owner in Soho or South
Or
East. Should we name them, right?
I don't go out anymore anyway, so if I get barred, I get barred.
No, I still need my entry.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay, so what sort of tribes do you feel, or like not tribes, like what kind of cliques do you find are more exclusionary? I feel like obviously you're going to say the circuit queens.
Well, the thing is, I think that's the one that people immediately assume are cliquey, and yeah, they are. But I think that is mostly just because they have their interest, which is basically their bodies.
Muscles.
Yeah, and so do you want to hang out with that, or is that actually just really fucking boring?
But then you could say that about like the bears. Their interest is that they don't have a body.
But I think with
Or they have too much body.
for example, maybe the bears, which, you know, I love a bear, always have done, but the bear community as a whole, I think they get that thing of like, we're inclusive and fuck everyone else, and then it becomes really like bitchy as well, and then they have their own infighting and stuff, and then if you don't have like a big bear body, but you're also not a circuit muscle queen or something, you're still out as well, so like you can't crack into any of that. And I would say that sometimes about like, well, about East London as well, because they're like, we're all artists and alternative and everyone's welcome here, but then they get a bit like so up themselves, or so maybe not up themselves, but like internally focused, that they start becoming a bit exclusionary as well.
Yeah. Well, I feel like if you really want to look at it, they all kind of have beef with each other. Like the East London gays will be like, why are there muscle queens that sink the pink? And then...
Oh, like the Adonis
yes,
scandal.
Yeah, exactly. What's the scandal?
Well, not the scandal, but I remember like the organisers of Adonis put like things on Instagram that were like, if you're a circuit queen, don't come here, we don't want you, it's not for you, and like there was all this like pushback about it.
But the thing is, you can't say like what defines a circuit queen. Like that's such a naff way to say things. Like no offense, Adonis, I do like it, but if anything, you just need to be like, don't collapse on G on the dance floor,
or you know, come here, shit yourself and die.
Yeah, yeah. Or well, no.
Yeah.
I was going to say fucking, but they do that at Adonis. So,
yeah.
And then you've got the XXL crew who are like, keep the trans people away, keep the femme gays out.
Yeah.
And then you've got the circuit queens who are like, keep everybody out. What about like the people who don't? Do you feel like the people who don't fit into these cliques, do you feel like they are still exclusionary?
Probably not, because they don't have that like size of group to sort of, you know, they don't have that community anyway to sort of leverage against people. If you can identify with like the bear community,
like, no friends.
you can identify with the bear community, then you think, oh, I've got this big group of people and that's where I belong. Whereas if you don't feel like you belong to any of those places, or don't have anything of your own, this is all sounding really bleak, but if you don't identify to that, then I don't think you can really be exclusionary. You could be a bit of a loner. Keep yourself
I don't even think it is a loner. I think like most of my friends don't really fit into one of those cliques. Like we might have like one boy in our group who's like, or like one or two who are like quite muscly, one or two who are quite East London, a couple who are quite South Central London. And I feel like that's why it kind of works, because we don't subscribe to that.
Yeah.
And then do you think it's a case of like sometimes just one person ruins it for everyone?
I think so. I think there are probably people that maybe don't have a very strong sense of self. So when they get like, they feel like they're a part of this like specific community, they become like the loudmouth of it. So they're like, no, he can't come in because he's not a muscle queen, you know, and like gives everyone else a bit of a bad name about it. But I definitely think there is inherent in sort of identifying yourself as a specific group. There is a level of exclusion that
But also
there.
I'm like, babe, why are you worried about my muscles? Worry about your face. I said what I said. There are a lot of ugly people who think they're very attractive because they've got a good body.
No gym for the face.
Well, and to boot, you've got an ugly personality too. So go work on being a better person. There will still be 2,000 muscle people for you to have sex with. There'll just be like 50 or 80 less muscular people too.
And let them have their corner for a dance. No, but that sounded meaner than I meant it to be. Like push all the uglies.
Oh, I'm like, who's the mean girl now?
No. I think especially when people behave like that, and I think this is something else we were going to talk about. I think it is like an insecurity or a learned behavior, because I think when people exclude other people, they're recreating a pattern that they've had to experience. So I know you wanted to talk about like Mean Girls and why that kind of dynamic happens a lot on the gay scene. And my take on it is, you know, and also people that watch Mean Girls and think, I want to be the Plastics. I feel like you've missed the point of the film. Like obviously the Plastics have the best outfits and we are all aware of that. But you've missed the point if you think the Plastics are the fab ones. Like they're actually the sad ones.
Yeah.
But if you went through...
And we're like the art freaks.
If you went through like, we're Janice and Damien.
I'm like trying to think of like...
If you went through like a school experience where you were sort of a bit of an outsider or othered or bullied or anything like that, then I think you looked to the people that had a really easy time of it in a social way and had these strong
and they were
friendship
popular
groups.
And they had friends, yeah.
And even though they made you feel bad, it sort of becomes like a thing that you want or you feel like you have to achieve to prove that you've made it or that you're normal or you're okay.
Definitely.
And so that manifests itself then in this community of people who have all gone through varying levels of like tough shit.
Yeah.
And where we should be sort of more like we should be more cognizant of that and respectful and be like, you know what, we don't want to recreate this. Unfortunately, humans can be like really tribal and they want to like group off. And when they do that, they recreate these dynamics that actually made them feel like shit as kids. They're unknowingly doing it because they're like, I would never exclude anyone. But then they're like, doesn't she look like a fat cunt? You know? Like,
yeah. And maybe she does, but that doesn't mean that you have to verbalize it.
Yeah.
I think that's a really clever theory. I also think my theory on why I think it can happen is because I think gay people grow up with insecurities anyway. Firstly, because of like the stigma around sexuality, but also because of the ridiculous standards that we've created within our own society.
Yeah.
So then that insecurity then manifests as like mean girl behavior.
Yeah.
But then, as you said, you do have the people who are on the flip side of that, who are just like the shallow people that enforce those standards anyway. It's a bit of like a catch-22, really.
Yeah.
But obviously, you do get the people who aren't like the body queens and who are still exclusionary. It made me laugh when you said about the Plastics and them having the good outfits, because I'm like, you're judging all of these other people. What are you wearing? What are you wearing? No, it's a question like, what are you wearing?
It was hot in 2004, I think. Them looks.
Yeah. You mean like the high tops and the big hat, like the...
Like, no, like all the little baby pink things and big T-shirts that say like little bit dramatic and stuff like that. They're a bit naff.
I don't know. I've like the ones that get me are like the ones that you buy them and it's a specific gay brand and then they walk around and it's just like bottom unicorn. And I'm like,
God, yeah. verse top King Dick or something like that.
And you're like, Maury, that is a lie. I've had it.
I think you said something interesting about the standards as well. Like the standards in the gay community are like mad, and they're really inconsistent, and they're also impossibly high. They are like impossible. And I think part of that is because you always had to prove, maybe growing up, that you were like clean and normal and not a pervert and have a like good boy, like because there was already
not a paedophile, like all these like
there was
crazy
already
shit,
this fucking assumption. And then on top of that, you've got to prove that you're a success. You've got to get a good job and make a lot of money, so that like the people in the back of your mind from your hometown or your school or whatever it is will see that you fucking did it, even though that they made fun of you for being a fag. Like, I think that's where it comes from.
Do you know what? I will be honest. That has driven me. That has got me to places. I'm like, do you know what? You will swallow your words when I get to where I'm going to be. And do you know what? It really it only gets you so far. And I feel like if that's your actual motivation for doing those things, by the time you get them, it's going to feel empty anyway.
Yeah, hollow. I think it's why people want they get that bigger, better deal syndrome with boyfriends or who they're dating, because they look at the boyfriend as like an extension of their success. So if you've got like what you regard to be like good looking, successful, hot, perfect, you feel like that reflects your success.
100%.
You want people to see that. It's like them old men that
Totally.
date like 23-year-old Russian prostitutes and drive penis cars because they feel insecure about themselves, so they need to show off,
That reminds me of like Dick Dastardly.
Ironic, because that dick probably isn't that dastardly.
What does dastardly mean?
Oh, really dick you down in a dastardly fashion. I don't know.
Please say that to somebody on Grindr.
Dick me down in a dastardly fashion.
Dastardly fashion.
Dastardly.
No, I'll be honest. And this is like a little bit embarrassing because it actually wasn't that long ago. But there was a point where I felt like I'd been so focused on like not going for people just based on looks. Like I had never been that shallow person. And then it got to a point where this guy comes along, super attractive, made a lot of money. Like he was very shiny on the outside. And then when it come down to it, like even after the first date, I'm like, we are just not compatible. Like we just really are not. And I thought, who cares? I thought, do you know what? I'll just date him for a few months. I'll be the shallow one just for a few months, just to see what it's all about.
Just to see what it was all about, like to see if like maybe you started to get on better, or just to like see how big his house was.
No, just to walk around with like a hot guy on my arm and people are like, oh, Anthony Gilét's done all right for himself, which is just such a naff attitude to have.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, and it just like he was a narcissist and it blew up in my face. So I was like, lesson learned for a second time, because I had already learned that one, but
sometimes we need a reminder.
We do.
Also, sometimes them super hot, super successful ones are fucking psychopaths. Like a lot of them have never heard no in their life, or have like, did you ever see that 30 Rock where Liz dates the really hot guy like John Hamm, and he thinks he can do loads of stuff like ride a motorcycle and stuff because no one's ever told him he has to learn. They're just like, you're amazing at that, you can do it. And she's like, you can't ride that motorbike. And he ends up losing a hand. I find that with like super like stereotypically hot people, a lot of them are fucking mad. And also because maybe they realise they can't trust anyone because people just tell them what they want to hear all the time.
100%.
So it's all bad.
But this is why, I don't know if I'm like going off on a bit of a tangent here, but I'll finish my thought and then we can re-divert back to whatever it was we were talking about. There was this guy who we had just met in real life once, and we like got along. There was like chemistry, whatever. Had a little kiss, and then we were messaging, like sexting, whatever. Like we was going to meet up because he didn't live in London,
right?
And then I was, the week that he was meant to come, it was just like, oh, do you know what? We'll just go for dinner. You can stay at mine, and then like you go home the next day, sort of thing. Just so it wasn't like, oh, you've come to London, and then it's just like a wham bam, whatever.
Yeah.
And also just
and
so
then
that
you
he
had
didn't
to like run for your train at 11 or something like that.
Yeah, and just so that like he wasn't like having to get a hotel and stuff too.
Right.
I was just trying to be hospitable. So I was like, oh, like you're coming, shall I make a reservation? No reply, just never replied. And then now it's like 8 months later. And he's replied to some of my stories and things like that before. But then it was like yesterday I got a dick pic from him, 2 dick pics.
Just out of the blue?
Yeah. And I just saw it and I just thought...
It was New Year's Day yesterday, though. He's probably like high and horny.
Well, I just thought...
Hungover
I just looked at it and I just laughed and closed the app. But I thought, do you know what? The old me would have been like, well, it's not meant to be serious anyway. And I still kind of stand by that. Like, listen, if it's not that deep, but I do actually think it's important to set a precedent for yourself about accepting when people disrespect you. If you'd have replied to the message and just gone, I'm really sorry, I'm not coming, I'd have been like, okay, cool, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
And that's it, would have been forgotten.
Yeah.
Whereas the fact that like I sent you a message, you didn't even reply.
Just left me hanging.
And then now, like 8 months later, we've not really spoken, and you're just trying to get. I'm not the one.
No, he just tried to break the ice with that little pecker.
I wouldn't say little, but
Big pecker.
You're like, give me his number.
Is that a handle again?
But I also do think, even going back to friendships, I do. Do you think like these people who are clicking in clicky friendships? Do you think they have healthy and happy friendships?
From what I've seen, not always, because I think a lot of them, and maybe this is more circuit community, I don't know so much regarding like actually even in like the artist sort of like queer community, there's this thing of like, you end up all trying to outdo each other all the time. You feel like you're actually in competition with these people who are your friends. So I've been in environments with like the circuity types where they're all just like, oh yeah, so I gained this and my bench press was this. And then they all start trying to outdo each other with like what fucking surgery they're going to do. I remember one guy was at a party and was like, actually, I went to a plastic surgeon to ask about like whether I could have my nose done because I'm not happy with my nose. And he said, my nose is actually so perfect that I just shouldn't touch it. Like that I've got the most perfect nose that anyone's ever seen. And I remember just thinking, fuck me, I would rather die than listen to this.
Do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take a load of steroids, infiltrate the group, and then be like, so new shoulders, it's the year of the shoulder.
Basically just try and recycle a Will and Grace plot
storyline
to get revenge on the circuit.
Yeah, also like people, if you don't watch Will and Grace, just watch the whole thing.
It will make so much more sense when you listen to any of our podcasts.
Yeah, literally.
I think even in like the sort of like more alternative or like queer community, there's that thing of trying to outdo each other more like with your artistic achievements or your activism and stuff like that. There's always just this drive to sort of outdo it. If those friendships aren't formed on something genuine, you end up just feeling like in competition with people because you've only been grouped together because you sort of do similar stuff.
I get that, but I think that's the same outside of the queer community too.
Yeah.
You know, even in like the comedian world, and I've heard tons of other comedians say this, like they look at like they see other comedians doing well and it's like, oh well, like I think I'm funnier than him or her, like why have I not got this, or like, oh, she got that opportunity, I've been doing comedy longer than them. And it's like all of that stuff, it just doesn't, it's not solely to do with your talent. Like maybe they met somebody who helped them do something that you didn't. Like maybe it could come down to any number of things. Like maybe they might not be as funny, but maybe they work harder. Do you know what I mean?
I think a lot of this stuff, both in the queer community or the straight community or wherever, comes down probably to like low self-esteem or low self-worth and not having confidence in your own abilities or not necessarily like valuing yourself for the way you should, because then you start to like validate yourself through external stuff and you start measuring your success as a human being or your success as a life against all these sort of like factors like my new nose or did I get that gig when she got that gig and I feel like I should have got that gig. And one thing I always feel like I have to remind myself of is like everyone has their own trajectory and certain things in your life that maybe have like pushed you forward or set you back haven't occurred in other people's lives. So that's why it's really unhealthy to like get competitive with other people.
Yeah.
It will drive you fucking nuts. And I try to keep that out of the friendships that I have.
Definitely, like half the time you're comparing yourself to somebody that has so much more privilege than you, like whether that be like no trauma, or you know what I mean, they've had like a leg up from their parents or whatever that is.
Born in 2005.
Fuck those bitches, we ain't talking about them yet.
But yeah, I think that's why when you solely hang around with people that just have like one element in common, like a tribe, like the tribe thing, then a lot of it does become competitive because that's the thing that binds you. So then you feel like you've got to be the most of that, the best comedian, the best muscles, the most artistic, all of that kind of thing. You've got to have that, the most success. And it makes people go mad. And it also then makes them act like cunt friends.
Yeah. I think like just forget all of that and focus on making the most money. No, sorry, did I miss the point?
Yeah, I think that might have been the one takeaway, yeah.
But I also think like when you get over 30, it's difficult to make friends. I mean, I think in your 20s it's easier to make friends because you're all in the club together.
Yeah.
And you're all like just in a smoking area, like, let's hang out.
Yeah.
But
oh, sorry, go on.
no, I was just going to say like in your 30s though, it's just where do you meet people?
Like, the doctor for back pain? I don't know. Like,
we're not that old.
Chiropractor. I think like, yeah, when you're younger, like, and even before that, like, because a lot of the friends you make tend to be things from like school or uni. So a lot of what you have in common are like shared experiences of being in the same place, even like your first jobs and that kind of stuff. Like I've still got friends that I met through like the jobs I had in my like late teens, early 20s. And then as you get older, people's lives get increasingly more like different. So you move off in other directions.
So you're saying that you lose the friends that you made then, and
you
then
don't necessarily lose those friends. Like you might still retain them friends. It's just
it makes a lot of sense.
The situations that you start finding yourself in are less shared experiences that you go through on a long scale with people. So like, whereas you might have friends from school that you have this like wealth of memories with, and you're like, remember when we all were all in that class and this happened? I think you're less likely to have that stuff as you get older because you concentrate more on your individual career and choices to live, and you're in less like communal situations.
Sure. And then also you've got like people that are having babies, marriages. So people who you had before, you're not as close.
Yeah.
And then that creates like the void. But then for people who aren't doing that stuff, they're not getting married, they're not having children, they're not like joining a gay rugby team. Like how are we like making friends? I always used to have a thing about
asking me for help. The way you got really like competitive there, and you was like, "How are we making friends?"
No, I was still laughing at the rugby team.
Oh right.
And then the thing that always used to get me was when I'd meet guys, and they'd have fucked all of their friends.
Right.
And then I honestly used to be like, oh, that's really sad. Like my hot take on friendship was gay guys who make friends who they've all fucked. That's like really sad.
Right.
And not necessarily sad as in like, that's pathetic a little bit. But then also it's just sad as in like, oh, that's kind of sad. Like that you've...
Like a sad statement that like the only way we can make friends is sex.
But then when I realised the question that I was proposing was that like, how else are they going to make them? Do you know what I mean? How, like, I think with gay people, obviously,
I think, obviously, like, gays meet people in a slightly different way, particularly now with apps. And we're a lot more sexually driven as well, particularly the male gay community. The way we meet people is slightly more different because we do go to places to find sex, or we go on apps and things like that. And sometimes, you know, you've had that situation where you maybe have sex with someone once and then that chemistry isn't quite there, but you maybe enjoy like the chat you have with them afterwards, or you end up like following each other on Instagram or having a laugh or something. Like, I think there's nothing wrong with meeting people in that way. Also, sometimes it's just like a good thing to just get it out of the way so that you can know, you know, that you don't have that what if.
Yeah.
Like, would we, won't we? Could you be something more to me? You have sex and you're like, no. We work better as mates.
I just think sometimes the issue is like, if you meet somebody out who you're not necessarily attracted to and you're getting along, sometimes that gets misconstrued. And then when they find out that you don't want to have sex with them, they don't really want to know. And it's like, I get, obviously it's like a rejection thing, so I do kind of get it. Even with dating in the past, if I fancied somebody and they didn't fancy me, I'd be like, bye, block. Right. Whereas I've been on dates and I'm like, I might have been open to seeing them again, and then they were not, but then they were like, oh, let's keep it as friends, and that's what we did.
Okay.
We're not friends anymore, but...
I think that's perfectly normal. I think that's a good thing. And if that date also included a shag that maybe didn't really like rock either of yours worlds, then I think that's all right as well. I don't think there's anything
Do you do you think that's what it is? Do you think it's just like the people who do have those friendships where it's just mostly people that they fucked? They're just like, well, it wasn't good enough to do it again.
It could be that, or it could just be like, sometimes like one shag is enough. Like I sometimes like with my sexual like pool of people, like my fuck buddies, it's like a couple of them like I'll have sex with 1 or 2 times and then it just sort of fizzles out in terms of like, well, we've done it now and the sort of like novelty has worn off. I still like you as a friend. And I have a couple of friends that have like started off maybe as fuck buddies and then we were both just like, I remember one of them saying to me, I think we're past sex now, aren't we? And I was like, yeah, we are. Can we just like go for a drink? And I like that. It felt very honest and real.
Yeah, and then you're like, who are your friends?
But instead of me getting like, pressed over it or getting all like feeling some type of way, like, what do you mean? I think we're past sex. I'm the most gorgeous person in the world. How could you want to fancy other people? Like, I wouldn't like necessarily think that shagging a few people in your friendship group is a sad statement about your ability to make friends.
Not a few people, no. But if it, like, I knew the guy who I lived with in New York, it was literally all of them.
That might need some looking at.
Yeah, like his current boyfriend was the ex-boyfriend of his best friend, and that friend was also dating another guy that he'd slept with, something like that. And I just thought, just get an polycule and call it a day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Unless they're all very, very, very evolved people, I just feel like that just starts to get really incestuous and it's going to breed like aggro at some point. But what you were asking before as well, like where do you meet friends in your 30s?
Yeah, and also why do you think we struggle to make friends? Do you think the gay people thing is more to do with sex, as in like most people are either looking for a relationship or sex, so that when it comes to like meeting other gays or friends, do you know what? I feel like it's easily done if you're in kind of like a social setting, like a house party or something, and then just from the outset that there's no mutual attraction.
Yeah.
Oh, also just if you're a top, just go make friends with other tops, and if you're a bottom, go make friends with other bottoms. Is that what you're going to say?
Thinking, no, that wasn't what I was going to say. I don't know. I've made some really good friends in my 30s and that I'm really happy with, and the friendship feels very real. And I've met them in various different ways. And I think some of it is maybe from like traveling as well, because you meet up with people that maybe you are like tangentially know. For me, it's like people that I've like chatted with or connected with a little bit on Instagram or knew through work who work in like a different part of the business in another country, and developed really strong bonds with them. But the problem is they don't live here.
Yes.
So I have made really good friendships, but they're not friends that I see every day. And I think I just have to value the fact that like I might not be seeing these people and I may not have someone to go out with every single night of the week. But the time I spend with those people, whether they live in the UK or like further afield, or if they have a baby or, any of these things.
Yeah.
I just have to value the quality of the time spent rather than the...
Like how often.
Yeah.
But do you know what? I was reading like a thread on Twitter or whatever, and it was saying like one of the things about friendship was like, they're like, oh, most of my best friends don't, like most of the friends who I adore the most don't live in the same state. So obviously it's like an American person. But yeah, even in like the last year, I've got a friend who lives in Milan who I adore. I've got a friend in New York, obviously, who I met there in an elevator. And now we do like 2 weekly calls where we like do like 2 hours and just catch up with each other. And I really value these people.
Yeah.
It's a shame, obviously, you don't get to see them more, but maybe the secret to a good friendship is distance.
Yeah. It is like sometimes I get that feeling of like, oh, fuck, like my friendship circle here is living and dying with maybe like 3 or 4 people tops that I see really frequently. And even then I'll be like, I haven't gone out with anyone like one night this week. Am I a hermit? Is this what happens?
Yeah.
But then I realise like I have a week where I have to see like 4 different people like
And you're
all in quick succession. I'm like, fuck me, I can't do this. I'm dying.
Yeah.
I think just the nature of friendship maybe changes once you start getting older and moving off in a different direction, like people having babies, or I've had really good friends that I met here, but now moved away abroad. So that friendship didn't end, it's just changed. It's like, transformed.
Sure.
And I don't want to go out and just make friends for the sake of it. I think like in our 20s, we were in clubs with people and we were like, they're all my friends and I'm just going to invite them to my parties as well because we have a good time on the dance floor. But like getting down to it, maybe if you went one-on-one with them, you probably had not that much in common, and that's why they've fallen away.
Yeah. There's definitely a lot of like, just like one interest friends that I've had. But you know, they say like the reason and the season thing, like people come into life for a reason or a season. Was there a third one? A reason, a season?
Reason, a season, or a lifetime. I think it is.
Okay.
That don't rhyme, but you know.
Also, it's quite rare that it's like an entire lifetime, isn't it? Well, not rare, but you know, you do make friends obviously that you have for life. But yeah, and I made friends where they literally like came into, I thought the season thing was funny because I was like, oh, it's so weird. Like I don't really make friends for like a season. And then I was like, oh, the season can last for 2 or 3 years and then they're out.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just means like temporarily.
Yeah. And I think as long as you're not trying to like desperately cling on to that and force it, I think, you know, it's good to like nurture your friendships and your relationships and obviously like stay in touch and stay in contact. But if you do feel like the dynamic is maybe just not there anymore, it's okay to be like, we had a great time together. Maybe not like meet up with them and be like, we had a great time as friends, but we're done now. But like it's a good thing to be able to acknowledge we've just moved in different directions.
Do you notice things like, so for me, one of the things like this girl, I really liked her, but she was obviously like, it's just not a close friend. We'd see each other once every like 2 months, go for drinks, get drunk, that's it, barely speak, and then do the same again. But I don't need to speak to people in between those times. Like if we're that kind of a friend where we meet up and we catch up when we're together, I don't need to speak to you in the middle.
Yeah.
And then it just got to a point where I think the last time I went out with her, I was a bit like, And then I just kind of left it. And then when I went back through the chat, I realised like, every time for the past year, it had been me inviting her out.
Right.
So I just stopped messaging her, and then I just never spoke to the girl again. That was in February last year.
Fuck. Well, the thing is, do you feel like you've lost anything in particular? No, that's
not
the thing. At least at like that period of time, you were both getting something that you enjoyed out of it, whether it was just that need to have like someone to hang out with to do a certain thing. I don't think there's anything wrong with that either. But would you ever sleep with a friend that you'd been friends with already for ages and it had been platonic? Honestly, I just don't feel like it would ever happen to me, because actually the more I get to know someone, the less attractive I find them, which sounds really awful.
No, that's literally what happens.
Yeah, and I just don't think I have any friends. The one or two times it's maybe happened where I've known someone for a while and we've accidentally ended up trying it on with each other, it's usually been like when we were intoxicated.
Yeah.
And then the next day you're like, wow, God, why did we do that? And it's like you're both mutually like, oh God, yeah, let's shelve that.
Or I've had it with people who it's like, I know, but we're more like acquaintance friends anyway, where we don't even meet up one-on-one, but I've known you for years.
Right.
You know, like it's people who like you used to go out with, like, or not even go out with, but you'd see them out and about and you've always known them and been on good terms with them. And had like a little like, oh yeah, maybe I would do that. I was
gonna say that. Was it like in a kind of sense where you'd maybe had like a sense that they fancied you or you fancied them? There was always like a slight suggestion of it.
So the ones that are springing to mind, there was a guy who I did not fancy, but then I bumped into him one night when out, and then he I don't want to say confessed his undying love for me, but it kind of did, like, he had a few drinks and it all came out and he's like, I've always found you attractive. He's like, I've always thought that you're a little bit feminine. And I was like, whoa. I was like, so what?
What did you say?
Also, just on a side note, sorry.
He said, like, I'm not going to fucking build you an IKEA flat pack while you eat snacks.
Let's not go back to the situation that made me sound aggy, but... Just on a side note, don't you hate it when men are like that in bed? Like I hate when I watch OnlyFans videos and they're like flexing their muscles. I'm like, you're worshipping yourself.
I know.
Like, I'm here.
Like, eyes front, please. Come on. You've got a mirror at home.
Yeah. Also, you've actually got a partner that you're fucking and you're just flexing your muscles. On that note, we're coming towards the end of the episode.
Right. Yeah.
Yep. That's it.
That's it.
That's it. We might return to friendships if we get some interesting comments in the YouTube comment section.
Yeah.
Sound off, guys.
How do you feel about friendship?
Do we deserve friends or not? Guys, thank you for watching Loose Lads. I've been Anthony Gilét. If you want to follow me on social media, it's at Gilet Slays.
And I'm James Egan, and I'm at IamTomDop. And I said it right.
Yes, and also that's going to be so confusing when you finally do your rebrand and then change it.
I'll do that after the season's aired.
And then we'll have like the voiceover. It'll be like, I am
Atlanta
Egan James.
Falcons.
Yeah. Well, it's just like really obvious.